Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let us begin our meeting. First off, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to call Police Chief Tim Hagel down to say the pledge with me. Tim, if you'd come down to the front. This is one of the gentlemen that is responsible for keeping the city of Thousand Oaks the #1 safest city in the state of California.
Thank you, Mayor. If you'll please face the flag and join me of our wonderful country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hagel. All right. If I may have the roll call, please.
Councilmember Fox.
Here.
Councilmember Bill de la Pena. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Price.
Here.
Mayor Adam.
I am here, thank you. I think it would be appropriate at this point to just have a moment of silence for the victims in the Charleston Church incident. If I could have you do that with me, please. Thank you. Our hearts go out to the victims and their families. Now, we are about to embark on a most enjoyable task, and that is the swearing in of a new council member. And we're going to have our city clerk start off with the election report, if you would, please.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Pursuant to the city's municipal code and state law, City Council took action on December 9, 2014 to call a special election in order to fill the vacancy created by former council member Jackie Irwin's resignation. The special election was held on June 2, 2015. 4 candidates ran for office: Rob McCoy, Ed Jones, Dan Roundtree, and Chase McGuire Rashid. There were 4,809 votes cast at the polls and 13,554 vote-by-mail ballots cast, for a total of 18,363 ballots. With 70,323 registered voters in the city, the special election had a voter turnout of 26.11%. The county clerk has certified the canvass of votes. City Council is now asked to adopt a resolution declaring the results of the special election. Mr. Rob McCoy is elected to fill the position for the remainder of the vacated term, November 2016. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Any questions for Ms. Lawrence? All right. If not, I do have a couple of speaker cards. First up is Chase Rashid, followed by Nick Kidwai. Hi, Chase.
Chase McGuire Rashid, City of Thousand Oaks. First off, I really wanted to thank everybody that voted for me. But why I really came up here was to talk a little bit about Councilmember-elect McCoy. During the election cycle, he was nothing but gracious to me. Even though I was an opponent, after each and every forum, he had nothing but good words and encouragement for me. I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican, so in this polarized society of politics, I found that to be amazing. I have great respect for him for doing that, and I wish him well in this journey he's embarking on as councilman, and I think Thousand Oaks is gaining a earnest councilman. I also want to thank Ed Jones, who is a giant in the community here. He's just an amazing man. Was very happy that he ran. Sort of a mentor, just sitting next to him on the at the forums, just like I said, an amazing man, and he'll continue to serve. If you're watching this right now, Ed, you are a giant, and thank you for serving us. I also want to thank Dan Roundtree for serving us on the Planning Commission and stepping up to run in the special election. 4 candidates ran, and each one of them brought something to the table that upped the turnout. And I also really just want to thank from the bottom of my heart everybody who voted for me. I truly appreciate it. And I mean that. That is sincere coming from me. For me, that's a very serious thing. And if you would put your trust in me to vote for me as council member, I truly appreciate it. And first, I have some people I want to thank: Sue Gunther, Rick Gunther, Carol Keaveney, Sylvia Navarro, Lee Riggin, Alessandro Neri, Clint Makovich, John Griffin, Cindy Hammer, Melissa Hollister, and so many others that were in my corner. I thank my opponents for providing a strong challenge. I want to work with people who voted for me. I want to work for people who did not vote, vote for me. And last but not least, and never least, I have to thank my mother and my campaign manager, Patricia Booker. She stepped outside of her her comfort zone to run this campaign for me. I'm not a politician, so it was a challenge to get this done, but she's got a degree in organizational management, and she knows how to use it well. She's been my cornerstone of strength for my entire life. You are amazing, and thank you so much. And thank you so much for Thousand Oaks. God bless Thousand Oaks. God bless America. And thank you.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you for running. I know you put your heart into it. Next up, Nick Kidwai.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I seek refuge from Satan, the dastardly one, and begin in the name of God, who's most beneficial, most merciful. Nick Kidwai, resident of Newbury Park, Director concerned City of Thousand Oaks. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. It started this way for good part of my early life, going to a Catholic school as a Muslim. And it's interesting that some people of other denominations of Christianity are scared of this wonderful, wonderful, great man that is going to serve us. It is indeed a bright and wonderful day in the city of Thousand Oaks, and I'm hoping that the politics of division, of putting people down, mean and pettiness will be over. I talked about this tie that I got in 2006. Hear no citizen, talk to no citizen, ignore every citizen. I hope very soon to cut it during public comments. And I've taken the challenge that if I'm proven wrong, that this will be the last year that I will serve as the Director of Concerned Citizens of Thousand Oaks. Well, I try to be funny, but I am no match for this pastor. I've been lucky enough, and you will get a taste of it. I've been to his services, and I plan on going regardless of what happened on the council. I went late on Sunday. I thought it was Father's Day. And before I had come, they were giving communion with some very interesting, nice things. And so the young associate pastor was handing out something looked like a brownie to me. So I put my hand up. It turned out that I left it on my desk. It was it was a scale. I already have scales, but I was ready to eat it. I'm glad I did not break my teeth. Well, democracy is great. I mean, I have had a relative visiting from Pakistan, took him around the county, etc., and he's just amazed, and he said, how lucky you are. What a great city you have. We talked about Dos Vientos, and I said, yeah, I had a hand in it. He said, you mean you voted for it? Well, I have not voted for anything, but I think I have made some contribution. And we are in for a surprise. We are going to have a man who's going to turn the city around, and he will not only do great work in the city, but he will be known in the whole nation, and he will move up, not in 2 years, as he has promised, but he's a young man, he has a long life to live, and I wish him the best. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Nick. As always, thank you. All right, if we have no further discussion, Mr. Fox, how about a motion to approve the results of this election and bring on Mr. McCoy?
I would move that the council approve the attached resolution and welcome Mr. Rod McCoy to the City Council.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Will vote, please.
I'm sorry, could you vote again, please? The motion carries 4-0.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. McCoy, if you would join our city clerk at the podium, you will be officially sworn in.
If you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Robert McCoy, do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which you're about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now we are 5. How about that? Well, as traditional, I'm going to ask each one of our my fellow council members, to perhaps make some remarks and welcome Council Member McCoy. How about we start with Joel Price?
Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you who came down here tonight to celebrate with the entire city of Thousand Oaks, really. It's been a while since we've had 5 of us up here, and it's nice to be able to look down at that end of the dais and see something other than an empty chair now, and that smiling face is going to be there for a while. Most nights, I'm sure. There may be times when it turns into a frown, but I certainly look forward to working with you, getting to know you better, helping you wherever I can. Being now I guess you elevated me. I am now the 3rd longest serving council member up here. For that, I'm grateful, and we will have an enjoyable time. And later on tonight, we'll have an enjoyable time as well when we get to go into closed session. So, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Joel. Claudia?
Honorable Mr. McCoy, welcome to the Thousand Oaks City Council. And I have to say thank you to all the voters in Thousand Oaks for electing your representative during this very first special election to fill a vacancy on the City Council. This was the first one under the new law that we have. I was very impressed with the turnout. 26% is a lot. Others may disagree, but it is a lot when you consider that Los Angeles had a turnout in May in single digits. I think Thousand Oaks did extremely well. Mr. McCoy, Rob, congratulations to you and Michelle. My condolences to Michelle. You will have to share him quite a bit, and you will see less of him. So be prepared. But it is very refreshing to have you, someone with very little, if no, experience in the political world, join us here on the council. And I really, truly look forward to working with you for the best of our community.
Thank you, Claudia. Andy?
Let me just echo, first want to thank all the citizens who took time to vote in the special election. There was, as if you followed in the paper, a lot of question on whether spending the money that we spent for a special election would be worth it. And no surprise, the residents of Thousand Oaks, the voters of Thousand Oaks, came out, they turned out well over 25% voter turnout when it was the only issue on the ballot in the county, in the state, anywhere. Thousand Oaks voters were the only ones voting that day, and they turned out in 25%, and by any measurable standard, a great turnout. So thank you to the voters, and most especially thank you all for coming out tonight and honoring Rob in his election to the council. It's an exciting night, the first night you're sworn into the city council, and we are very pleased to have 5 of us here again. I was reading the newspaper story that talked a little bit about our backgrounds. Joel and I come from public safety as a police officer and firefighter. Claudia comes from the media. Al's private business, finance, and now we have a pastor. So, you know, representing our community, we don't have council districts. We run citywide. We're proud of that. We're proud of the fact that we get phone calls from Newbury Park, Dos Vientos, Lang Ranch, Old Town, Central Thousand Oaks. We're proud of the fact that we serve the entire community. Rob's a Newbury Park guy, but rest assured, he's your councilman. He's your councilman citywide. And we are very, very pleased and very fortunate to have somebody who truly cares about people. Letitia and I had a chance to spend some time with Rob and Michelle, and we're very excited. I'm personally excited to have a colleague in the council who cares about people, cares about our community, and I look forward to serving him as he starts his service here in our community as a councilman. So Rob, to you and your family, congratulations.
Thank you, Andy. Rob, you are living proof that democracy works. You have a great track record here in the community. You've done a lot of good work, and now you are in the position to do a lot more, and I know you will. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. It goes to show you how important it is to vote, because this was a close election, and I'll tell you, folks, every vote counts. So next time around, make that effort, come out, represent Thousand Oaks, live up to what our forefathers fought for all these years, and make sure you vote. Rob, again, you passed the job interview, and here you are with us, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. And Michelle, thank you for your support for Rob. In fact, thanks to all the spouses of the council members, Janine Price, Dr. Rondi LaPena, Letitia Fox, my wife Marilyn. It's not easy being the wife or the husband of an elected official, so I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. Rob, now we get to work, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we are going to move on through our agenda. Oh, no, we're not. What am I saying? Forgot the most important thing. Rob. please. Thank you, Tracy. It is traditional that the incoming council members say a few words. So
Thank you.
I'm so used to 4 that I
The seat was vacant, but now there's somebody here.
there definitely is. My
First of all, I
apologies.
wanted to say thank you to my wife, Michelle, and I'm so grateful, honey. And then to all the citizens of this wonderful city of Thousand Oaks, just to prove that democracy does work, as Mayor Adams said. I was thinking the idea that I won by 52 votes, and that constitutes a full deck of cards, so I'm playing with a full deck. For those who are wondering how I'm going to legislate from this seat, I just want to share with the citizens of Thousand Oaks that I'm a blank slate in the sense that I'm here to listen to the citizens to the best of my ability and be available to y'all. I know all the other council members feel the same way. I wanted to take a moment to say thank you to the other folks that I ran against. And Chase, you set the stage so well, the way you described the council race. It almost wasn't as though we were opponents, we were friends. And I was so impressed with you and so thankful to have the privilege to run with you and to see what an inspiration you were to me and the others in the race. And I feel the same way you do about Ed Jones. He wasn't an opponent, he was a mentor of sorts. And then to see Dan's heart for this city and his service and his diligence to want to make a difference, and all of us working together in relation to that, and one person goes forward. But I was strengthened by all of you and take a little bit of each of you with me. So thank you to all the folks that I ran, not against, but with. And then I just wanted to share with the folks of Thousand Oaks that California has the 3rd largest constitution in the world. I think it's 3rd only to India and Alabama. I'm a storehouse of worthless knowledge. Don't ask me how I know that. But the Constitution itself is so lengthy because of the mistrust of politicians. And yet it's also an interesting state in that it gives rights to the cities and to the counties. That there's almost a strength within the cities to be able to manage themselves. And in a state that has almost $260 billion of debt, in a nation that has almost $17 trillion of debt, I'm serving in a city that has been managed by a staff, an executive staff, and this council that has money reserved. They've operated in such a fiscally conservative manner, and they've taken care of the citizens of this city so well. When everything around us seems to be falling apart, this city isn't. And I'm honored to serve with each and every one of you. And I'm grateful for all the folks that day in and day out serve this city in your tireless efforts as employees of this city. And so I'm looking forward to working together with all of you and so grateful to get to know you. And as I suspected all along, no matter what people were saying, I knew you were delightful people. And when we had the privilege... When we had the privilege to have dinner at your house, Mayor Adam, the chance to meet the spouses, this is a wonderful group of folks, and I'm honored to be with you, and I look forward to serving with you. Thank you all so very, very much. That's it. I'm finished.
So gracious words. Thank you, Councilmember McCoy. And now we are going to move on to special presentations, and I'm going to come down to the podium. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for our first presentation, I would like to invite some members of our Conejo Rec and Park District Board to join me at the podium, Jim Friedel, Chuck Huffer, and George Lang, right here. Come on up, fellas. And the reason they are here is because this is Rec and Park Month, and I don't have to tell you that our Rec and Park system is one of a kind. It ensures the health of all our residents. It's great for our community and the environmental well-being of our community, helps build healthy, active city, therapeutic recreation services for the mentally and physically disabled, and pretty much improves the health of everybody living here in town. Make sure we have the ecological beauty of our community that we so value. We have a place for our kids to play, for adults to play with the kids and connect with nature and the great outdoors. And it's my honor to designate July as Park and Rec Month. Jim, appreciate all that you and your staff do. Why don't you come on up here and tell us a little bit about it.
Actually, our vice chair is going to do our remarks.
Mr. Chuck Hufford. Very good, sir.
Thank you. Mayor Adam, members of the City Council, I think most of you know who I am, but just for the record, I'm Chuck Huffer. I'm the Vice Chair of the Conejo Recreation and Park District Board of Directors. I'm joined this evening by Director George Lang and Jim Friedel, our General Manager. I did want to pass along, our Chairman Ed Jones wanted me to make sure to express his regrets that he could not be here tonight. He had a prior family obligation that simply couldn't get out of. First of all, on behalf of the entire CRPD Board of Directors, we'd like to add our congratulations to now Council Member Rob McCoy on your election and on being sworn in this evening as the newest member of our City Council. Congratulations, Rob. The reason I'm here this evening representing the CRPD Board, along with Director Lang and General Manager Friedel, we'd like to thank the City so much for proclaiming this as Recreation and Park Month in July. With our children and grandchildren now out of school for the summer, looking forward to camps, swim lessons, and other such activities, we truly appreciate the recognition, your recognition of the importance of recreation to the citizens and community of Thousand Oaks. Excuse me, let me get my glasses because I can't read it. We know that the quality and quantity of the recreational activities that we have in this community is one of the important factors which attracts newcomers to our city, and it's one of the reasons why our friends and neighbors have made Thousand Oaks their home for decades and decades. Sure, Thousand Oaks is consistently ranked among the nicest and safest cities in which to live, and we have schools and a university second to none. But the thousands of acres of open space within and surrounding our city, the miles of trails within that space, the 50-plus neighborhood, community, and special purpose parks and play fields easily available and accessible to everyone, and the thousands of recreational classes and programs offered every year by the district indeed make Thousand Oaks a special place to live. For more than 50 years, CRPD has been creating and maintaining these facilities and programs. This is a process that couldn't have happened and could not continue without our strong partnership with our friends here in City Hall. Almost 40 years ago, the Park District and the City jointly created the Conejo Open Space Conservation Agency, or COSCA, which today owns or manages more than 15,000 acres of open space with over 150 miles of hiking, equestrian, and bike trails. More recently, the district donated land to the city at Conejo Creek North, where today the city operates our wonderful library, and where the district and the city cooperate in the staffing, programming, and maintenance of the Alex Fiore Thousand Oaks Teen Center and the Global Adult Community Center. There are numerous other ways, large and small, in which CRPD and the city are working together to ensure that our families, friends, and neighbors have a great life here in Thousand Oaks. Again, thank you for proclaiming the month of July as Recreation and Park Month. And Jim Friedel had just a couple of quick remarks.
With the mayor's indulgence and City Manager Mitnick, members of the board, congratulations to new Councilmember McCoy. I wanted to actually call out a few staff members, Jay Spurgeon from Public Works, Drew Powers, Scott Mitnick. The leadership of the city has been instrumental in helping us try to navigate the drought and our response to it. And I do want to let people know, because I have the mic, that the Park District is taking the drought very seriously, and we are reducing our percentages of water consumption in a way that's commiserate with everybody else. So what is going on right now is you're going to see the parks drying out and shrinking in size of the grass area. And the best way I can try to help folks understand what we're trying to do for the long term is if you think of the park as wall-to-wall carpet with grass, we're trying to use more of a throw rug approach, and we hope to surround the lush green lawn with nice drought-tolerant landscaping. That will take time. So we beg your indulgence as we go through these next hot summer months and you see your parks drying out. It's because we're being responsive to the drought, and we appreciate the city working with us on that. So thank you, and thank you so much for proclaiming July Park and Rec Month. And I hope it's okay if George says one quick thing.
I guess.
Thank you, Mayor Adams, council members, especially Council Member Rob McCoy. My pleasure to be here. George Lang, one of your fellow elected officials here in our community, along with the school board. I normally don't dress like this, but some of you know I was the Grand Marshal of this year's Conejo Valley Days, and you've got the whole year to enjoy that position. So I'm still relishing it. And once, I'll mention this briefly, normally the Grand Marshals took on a country western handle, like Conejo Bob or Buffalo Bob or this or that. I decided this year to break the mold and get a Chumash Indian name, and my Indian name is Xiantuk, which means friend. And it was given to me by the Chumash Indian Museum staff. And so I hope that, and I know the Park District is a friend of the city, and I hope I can continue to be a good friend of all of you council members. And I know, Rob, that we'll have an opportunity to meet and work together. And this is a great community. I've been a citizen here since 1965, seen a lot of changes, met a lot of council members and so forth. And the main thing is, as I mentioned prior to the meeting, is to listen to your constituents and work together for the betterment of our community. So God bless you, and thank you, Mayor Adams and the rest of the council member, for declaring July Rec and Park Month. Thank you.
Thank you, George. To George, Chuck, and Jim, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for your dedication to keeping Thousand Oaks beautiful and fun. You know, we have a park right down the street from my house, and it is the hub of our community, I want to tell you. So we really appreciate that. And I'd like to present you with the proverbial commendation that declares this the Rec and Park Month. So let me give you that, and how about we get a picture? No, we're going to do it. Why don't we go around and get the whole council?
Okay.
All right?
Sure is.
Let's get...
Oh.
right. I refer to Councilmember Fox as our senior member, and I should have said the man with seniority. Very good. All right. Next up, we do have an important presentation to make. And I would like to ask Fran Bro to come down, the Executive Director of Conejo Las Virgenes Futures Foundation, with Irene Lee and Sanjana Corapodi to the podium. Hello, ladies. Hi, how are you, Fran? Hello, how are you? Each year, the Las Virgenes Futures Foundation Youth Leadership Program gives local students the opportunity to experience and understand the value of becoming active in their community. And I can't speak highly enough for that. We need our young people to be active in the community. So Fran, tell us a little bit about your program and introduce your youth speakers, if you would, please.
I'm the former executive director of the Conejo Las Virgenes Future Foundation. Very proud of that. As a matter of fact, when I first went to work for the Future Foundation, Jim Friedel was just a little young man at the time, and he was on the Future Foundation's Young Adult Task Force, another program that we put on, and it addressed issues for people from 18 to 30 years old, and heard from them what they would like to see in the community to keep them in the community. And I'm glad Jim has stayed in the community. The Youth Congress program, I've had the privilege of working with the youth in this program for over 20 years now, and without further ado, I'll introduce our young women here who will tell you about their experience this year. First of all, I have Irene Lee.
Hi, my name's Irene. I'm going to be a sophomore at Thousand Oaks High School next year. This was my first year in the Youth Congress Leadership Program. The Youth Congress Leadership Program was sponsored by the Conejo Las Virgenes Future Foundation, and it's currently in its 6th year. It replaced the Youth Congress, which ran for 25 years. The Youth Leadership Program was created to help students explore the inner workings of their community and encourage them to both actively participate in it and be service to it. Through innovative and highly informative programs, students develop an understanding of the community as well as valuable leadership skills. This year, 80 participants had the chance to visit various places in the region to find out how they contribute to each of our communities. Students from Agora, Calabasas, Century Academy, Lorena, Oak Park, Newberry Park, Thousand Oaks, and Westlake High Schools participated. Returning participants were given the opportunity to serve leadership positions in the program. We kicked off the program with an orientation meeting at the University Center, where we discussed leadership skills and did icebreakers as well as team-building exercises. Our next meeting was held at the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District, where we learned about water issues in California. We were divided into 2 groups, one representing Northern California and one representing Southern California. We then discussed how the South needed water from the North and how the South was going to get it from the North and bargain for it. This was followed by a visit to the Four Seasons Hotel in Westlake, where we were given a tour and learned about the behind-the-scenes operations of a 5-star hotel and the variety of jobs available in the hotel industry. Next, we visited the Alex Fiore Thousand Oaks Teen Center. We learned about the activities provided by the Teen Center, and then, after a series of icebreakers, we took part in a group activity where we were given an event with organizational issues and how to respond with quick solutions. After the meeting, we enjoyed a pizza social put on by the Rotary Club of Westlake Village.
Hi, my name is Sanjana Prabhati, and I'm going to be a senior at Westlake High School, and along with Irene, this was my first year part of the Youth Congress. Following the Alex Fiore trip, we had our next meeting at the Malibu Lost Hills Sheriff Station, and we gained a deep understanding of law enforcement. We enjoyed a tour of the entire station, including the jail, and learned firsthand what goes on inside a police station and how it functions to provide the greatest security for the people. We also learned about the challenging training and education necessary to enter a career in law enforcement. Next, we met at the Discovery Center in the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley. We learned about challenges during the Reagan administration and took part in a simulation of the Grenada invasion. In this, we were each given a role and were split into 3 different modules: the Oval Office, the military, and the press. It was a stimulating role-playing activity where we learned about the responsibilities and challenges faced by each group. The next meeting took place at the Los Robles Medical Center East Campus in Westlake Village. We toured the physical and occupational therapy departments and had the opportunity to speak with various healthcare professionals. We learned about various careers in the health industry, as well as volunteer opportunities at the hospital. Next, we went to the Boys and Girls Club at Kalina Middle School, where we learned about a multitude of volunteer opportunities, toured the club, and then were able to interact with the kids who participated in the club. Each meeting is an entirely different experience. The speakers give us excellent information about how they work with the community to bring about results that make our community a great place to live. We are all enlightened by these presentations and receive wonderful opportunities to volunteer and actively participate in our communities. We concluded the program with a meeting at Oak Canyon Community Park, where Kiwanis Club at Thousand Oaks prepared a delicious barbecue dinner that we enjoyed with all our families. In addition, the Rotary Club of Westlake Village presented each of our student officers with a gift and also provided the music and decorations. We would like to thank all of the very important community leaders who took the time to meet with us and introduce us to the many local opportunities. They helped to make this year's program a great success. Thank you.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank the City of Thousand Oaks for supporting the Future Foundation and its programs, and specifically the youth programs. These young ladies are only a small representation. We had 80 students that participated this year, and we're very grateful for your continued support. So thank you.
Thank you, Fran, for mentoring these young ladies. And Sanjana and Irene, keep up the good work. Stay involved. You're laying the foundation for a very successful adult life. Thank you for being involved in our community. All right, and we have one other presentation that is also a big one, I think. We're going to honor an individual that is retiring from probably one of the most important positions in our community. That is Superintendent of the Conejo Valley Unified School District. Dr. Jeff Barstad, would you, oh, there you are, sir. How are you? Good to see you. All right. Well, Jeff is the CEO of the school district. He works closely with a lot of different entities, with the board, with the administrators, with the teachers, with the parents, with the students, with the community. That's a lot of people to work with. And he keeps his focus on the school district and the kids at the same time. So that's a juggling act. You have been a very effective superintendent, Jeff, and let me tell you how. You have a clear vision for the district. You set goals and objectives, and then you saw that they were achieved. You are an instructional leader. You implemented best practices to maximize student achievement. And you're very supportive of all the teachers in the district. I know that for a fact because at your retirement gathering, there were quite a few teachers there and a lot of love. Well, that is excellent. You're a very effective communicator. You've communicated the mission of the district through written reports, through the media, through public meetings, and especially at school events. You're always there, and that's been excellent. It's good to be out there. You're a good manager. You've directed administrators to accomplish the goals. You've monitored their progress and evaluated their performance. You're a good listener. There's differing viewpoints, and you've listened to them all, and then I think you've made the best decision every time. And you're flexible. You need to adapt to the changes in the school community, which seem to be happening all the time, and you're collaborative rather than confrontational, which that's important too. And let me just fill in a few little blanks here. Conejo Valley Unified School District has 21,000 kids, 27 schools, $160 million budget, and Jeff has managed all that and kept his focus on the kids at the same time. And that is not an easy thing to do. 37 years in public education, more than a decade with our school district, last 5 years as our superintendent. Conejo Valley Unified School District's in the top 5% of California school districts. All three high schools are in the Newsweek's 1,000 Best High Schools in America. Jeff has presided over a district that has consistently rising test scores, and he advocated for a very successful bond issue that's going to keep the district in good stead for many years to come. So that's really a legacy on your part, I think. And to top it all off, Jeff was named Superintendent of the Year by the Association of California School Administrators in 2013. So Jeff, you have been great. We're going to really miss you. I know you have a big retirement plan, a little surfing maybe, a little boating, a little time with the kids. That's all good. A little golf too, maybe?
Yeah, you bet.
All right, very good, very good. Well, I hope you think back with fond memories on your time here in Thousand Oaks, because we certainly have fond memories of you. Jeff, thank you. Not that Jeff doesn't have plenty of these already, but we do have a proclamation honoring him for his time with us and wishing him well in his retirement.
Thank you very much. It's the best one.
Very good, very good. We're going to say it.
Well, Mayor Adam, members of the council, and Scott, members of city staff, thank you so much for honoring me this evening and for the kind words. Pastor McCoy, congratulations to you, sir, and best wishes as you enter this new phase of your service to this community. I'm just really, really grateful for the opportunity to serve the children and the families of this community the past 12 years. The work that I've gotten to be a part of, the people that I've gotten to meet along the way have been just a true blessing in my life, and my heart is really, really full. I really want to thank the City Council and City staff for everything that you do to support the school district in this community. Some great comments were already made by CRPD, but I think we have this symbiotic relationship between the city and the school district and the Recreation and Parks District, and so much of that energy is focused on what's good for kids and families in this community. It's no accident that we're considered one of the finest communities in the nation to raise a family, and I am greatly proud of being a part of that. You have lots and lots of things that you do for the school district financially. You provide lots and lots of operational support with your city staff. That makes our school district the great school district that it is. I do want to turn things around on you just a little bit, though, and I want to compliment you for running the premier city in Ventura County, and I believe one of the finest cities in California. And that's not just my opinion. There's lots of objective data to back that up in the form of open space districts, the amenities that we have in this city, including this magnificent building that you make available for all kinds of school events, the sound financial basis that we have for this city, the infrastructure that we have, the safety that we have in this city. That's all a function. It's not an accident. It's a function of leadership. It's a function of leadership of the council, leadership of city staff. I, for one, have been watching you guys for the last 12 years, and I think you sometimes are held up for some unfair criticism about some little things that happen in this city that aren't nearly as important as the great work you do day in and day out in the big picture that, again, makes this one of the finest cities in Thousand Oaks. So thank you for your service. Thank you for the quality that goes into the city of Thousand Oaks. Thanks for embracing me and letting me be a part of this community the past 12 years. Best wishes.
As Jeff mentioned, we really are proud of the city's relationship to the school district. Great collaboration. And there's a gentleman here in the city that I know you've worked shoulder to shoulder with for a number of years. That's our city manager, Mr. Scott Mitnick, and I know Scott wants to say a few words. Come on up.
A lot of great things have been said, and I was just coming down to be able to shake your hand and say thank you. This is for our new council member. You're seeing what's one of the things that is great about this community, the tremendous working relationship between its school system and the municipality. Not a whole lot of cities in California are like this. There's a lot of conflict between cities and school districts. It used to be that way here. It's no longer that way. And I've enjoyed working with this gentleman the past 12 years, 7 as the assistant superintendent and the last 5 as superintendent. We had to wrestle with a lot of complicated, difficult issues. I watched you from the sidelines dealing with the school closure issue, and you handled it with class and extreme professionalism. He's going to be missed. I did get the opportunity to meet with his replacement, and the first thing I told her, she's also a Dr. B, is we have a long-standing good relationship between the superintendent and city manager, so don't blow it coming in. So she got that. I want to share with the council, one thing that I enjoyed about Jeff is we worked hard on a lot of issues, but we, for years, would go and stand on the sidelines and watch football games in the different high schools and the playoffs, and I really enjoyed that. We would talk a lot of business on the sidelines there, but it was a chance for us to escape from the challenges and see right there from the sidelines what's great about the community, those kids playing at an extreme high level, and Jeff, I'm going to miss that. You're a class act, and I hope we stay in touch over the years, and thank you for everything.
We will. Thank you very much, Scott.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Let's have a picture, okay? Linda, do we have any? Is that it? Is that it? That's it. Yeah. All right, very good. Now, on to our public comment section. If you would call for those, please, Ms. Lawrence.
This is the time and place for public comments. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for public hearing items shall be called and heard during the public hearing. All remarks should be addressed to the council as a whole, and all documents for City Council and the official record should be presented to the city clerk prior to speaking. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the council unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city manager for administrative follow-up. 5 people have presented cards, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Our first speaker is Patricia Booker, followed by Debbie Gregory.
Good evening, Mayor and Council
Good evening,
members,
Patricia.
and newest member, Rob McCoy. I just wanted to say to you, first of all, you're the newest council member, and someone who has never had a political office indicates that you're perhaps the positive change that the city people and the council needs. Congratulations, and I wish for you the best of success. And what little bit of heart I had left to still, little Oliver stole it, so give him an extra hug from me when you get home. Thank you. I'm up here because something just kept knocking at my door. Ever since last year, it's been knocking at my door, and finally it busted down the door and it said hello to me, and that was racism. And when Darlene Moore spoke a couple of weeks ago, it concerned me. And so Chase told me, well, you can always meet with Chief of Police Hagel for coffee, which I did. On June the 14th, I talked to him and Officer Slominski, and I thanked them. But my problem was with when Darlene Moore was standing up, her story was fragmented. She said her son was swinging on a swing at the lake. The police were called. She went on to say a lot of other things. Nobody ever stopped to ask her to get the whole story. Her beginning was not, it was a small beginning. There was no middle, and there was no end, and I had a problem with that. And I think when racism does show its ugly head, I've been experiencing it since Last year, like I said, racism just kept knocking at my door. I didn't want to let it in. I spoke out about it in the past. I've written about it in the past. And I said, well, it's time. And what happened in South Carolina, it made me really think I had to speak out, because it happens subtly. It happens behind closed doors. But when it starts to come from behind closed doors, everybody should be concerned and everybody should speak out about it. And, you know, because the subtle things you think, oh, it's minor, it can turn into something big. And racism is scary, because I experienced when Chase was running for office. I was frightened at the email that he got, and I stuck with him everywhere he went. That's why people saw me, because I was frightened, because I did not know what that person was capable of. I had friends that would, you know, give him rides because they knew how frightened I was. And it's up for leaders to speak out from the city level on up. And I plan to address Julia Brownlee and Jackie Oren about this, because it is a serious problem and it can ruin a city. I'm the type of person, if you don't like me, fine, of the color of my skin, or you don't like my loved ones, fine, but leave me alone. And I'm here to try to make things better. That's why I put before you, I call it the curiosity list. And I dare you all to ask a question. It's about dialogue. It's about getting to know people and who they are. You know, that's what's going to make a difference. And speaking out is going to make a difference. And people will think twice before they decide they want to cause some trouble. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Debbie Gregory, followed by, I'm not sure if I had this right. Is it Toy Hunt? Toy? Tom. Sorry.
Good evening, Council. I'm Debbie Gregory. I'm a resident of Thousand Oaks. And I want to take this opportunity to congratulate Rob McCoy on his election to the Council. Every vote does count. Democracy is not free. We've got soldiers that are making every sacrifice up to and including the ultimate sacrifice, their life, for democracy. So $200,000 for an election is really inexpensive for what we get in return. And I'm happy to say I live in the precinct that had the highest voter turnout, I'm told. So I'm proud of that. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mick Ferris, who was a former planning commissioner, and in this community, he worked tirelessly so the residents of this community could have the right to vote, rather than the council appointing someone. Mick put his own money up, he got petition signed, and that's why we are where we are today, where the citizens got to elect Rob McCoy. And I'm particularly happy that that is the way that it happened. I also wanted to congratulate Jeff Barstad. I served on BondAct, which was the bond advisory committee before this bond, for 10 years, and that's when Jeff first came to the district. And I saw how smart and hardworking he was, and I congratulate him on his retirement. I also just wanted to point out, you know, we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us. We spend a lot of money, we need a lot of money, water. If you look at the council agenda every week, the consent calendar, you'll see tens of millions of dollars exactly where it's going. It's a good snapshot of how we spend our money. I think that the residents of this community are passionate. They're passionate about the quality of life and making this a great place to live. And I hope that the entire council will listen to them. There needs to be a good balance between the business community and the residents. There's a lot of issues coming up that are very sensitive. The development of the boulevard, mixed use, the challenges to Measure E, the Auto Mall sign, which was something that galvanized the city like nothing else, and 3 days notice and the sign's back. Our redevelopment agency is no longer here. It's been abolished. So the money we have to be careful how we spend it and be fiscally conservative. I don't believe in giving millions of dollars to any private business, and I hope the council will rethink their decision of giving $4.5 million to the Auto Mall, which had a record year, and loaning them another $4.5 million. I just don't think when we have needs that aren't necessarily, being met, that it's the right thing to do. I've had to learn, my husband has taught me I can only spend money once, even though I've tried to do it more than once. And we have needs and wants, so I hope that everybody will look at what is important and there'll be balance in the city. Congratulations, Rob.
Thank you, Debbie. It's Tom Hunt.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, sir. Followed by Nick Kidwai.
I just came to thank the City Council for installing that green arrow at the corner of Lynn Road and the northbound freeway. You've saved a lot of lives, I believe, by installing that arrow there. It used to be a real hazard to make a left turn in front of the oncoming traffic. So that was a pleasant surprise that you just achieved, and I want to thank you for that. And I know I live in Los Robles Estates, which is on the corner of Green Meadow and Lynn Road, and a lot of the people that from our complex use that, and they're really happy that you put it in. So I want to thank you for that, and congratulations, Rob.
Thank you, Tom. Nick Kidwai, followed by John Brisson, or Brisson. We're going to find out in just a minute.
Nick Kidwai, resident of Newbury Park, Director Concerned Citizens Thousand Oaks since 1991 or 93, I forget. The last gentleman, Tom, is what really makes Thousand Oaks special. He is the unsung hero that does not get the limelight. And there are thousands of Toms in this city that make this such a wonderful place. Even though the city would like to say, and our new council member said that we have no debt, etc., or very little debt. We have $200 million debt in this city. We can't do anything about it. Under different hat, you had a man with a hat here. So it's $200 million, and there's about 20 million or 20 years left on that debt. It comes out to about $6,000 per family of 3. This is real money, and it's not coming from sales tax or income tax, but it comes from the business property taxes in the community. So we are coming to business. I just can't be, hunky-dory and just laughter. There are real problems. I know we have a council member that is qualified and should really be in Sacramento or that dirty city, Washington, D.C., making laws. So I have 3 changes I think I would like you folks to address to Jackie Irwin or some of the other people. One is, special election should not be in the quaint little ballot box. Should be by mail order. 80% of the, 14,000 votes were cast absentee, 4,000 or something like that. And that's, I don't know how many, you just divide that by $150,000. So if we don't want to go to like Oregon, but at least have special election like this, there should be option that we can vote it and make it and kind of come down hard on people to do absentee ballot. Number 2, we need a change. I mean, if Rob in 4 years decides to run for assembly with 2 years remaining, he should not be allowed to do that. No one should be allowed to do that. We should come out, or at least have that option that they sign something of the waiver. And like I've said, the city council, all 4 of you supported Jackie Irwin, that you should pitch in a few $1,000s from your own checkbook for the cost of this election. Yes, Mr. Adam, because you supported Jackie Irwin, and she won. And we otherwise we would not need a special election. And number 3, it's on the consent calendar, but I will just say it over here. We need to do something about software fees. I mean, they think it's Pastor Rob, that's free money. And so they're just way out of hand. I mean, we should have software money, but not these kind of things. We need a bill to limit these, because taxpayers, I mean, we are not, Disney dollar people. These are real dollars and we have no control over it. And one of the ways to do it is bring it down from Sacramento. And just quickly, we need to change this un-American sign ordinance. Pastor Ross, Joel Price, you all know that. Come on, let's get this city on the right track and make us proud, of that flag that we are, make us proud of the city, and don't have, no other city in this area has this kind of a lousy sign ordinance, which is completely un-American.
Thank you, Mr. Kidwai. Is it John Bryson? It is. There we go. Hello, John.
Hello. Hello, my name is John Bryson. I'm a longtime Thousand Oaks resident, and I work for Assemblymember Jackie Irwin. Hello, Councilmember McCoy. I'm here today to talk again about the event we're all very excited about this Saturday, Defeat the Drought, a water conservation expo that the Assemblymember is co-sponsoring with the City of Thousand Oaks. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the workshops we're having, just so people know what they can get when they come. We're going to have Eric Berg, the resources manager at Callegas, giving a drought education workshop that's going to be comprehensive and also cover the California water fix. We're going to have turf removal and drought-tolerant landscaping by a company called Nature by Design, who specializes in California and drought-tolerant scape, and to show people the options of what is really out there. We're going to have a workshop on HOA with Greg Epstein from Enhanced Landscape Management, Steve Foreman, and of course the city's own John Brooks. And they're going to talk about HOA issues and regulations and what the current status is. And we expect these to be very well attended, so we would encourage everybody to RSVP to get a good seat at these workshops. We're also going to have 50 Shades of Gray Water. That is going to be done by Laura Allen from graywateraction.org. What you can do to not just limit your water use, but to reuse water. Water travels thousands of miles to get down here to us, and we just use it once. And they specialize in how you can use it twice, improve your yard, improve your efficiency, and lower your own bill. And then we'll also have Michael Whitman on biochar. The City of Thousand Oaks, of course, as you all know, has done some very amazing things with biochar, including cutting their own water bill in half. And so we invite people to come out and see how lush their yards can look. We're also going to have the mayor presenting the first award for the city's landscape transformation photo contest. We're very excited about this, and we're very glad that you're involved. We're also going to have a question and answer panel. So if you have questions about this drought, about what's going on, about what you can do, and you want to ask a water expert, well, come on down and ask a water expert and get an answer. So if there are any questions, I would be happy to take them.
Thank you, John.
All right.
Looking forward to Saturday.
Thank you.
I do have a written statement card, which will be entered into the record as well, and that concludes our public speaking. Mr. Mitnick, do you have any follow-up comments?
None.
All right, thank you. Let us move on to the consent calendar. Any items to be pulled? No. All right. Mr. McCoy, how would you like to move the consent calendar? Get warmed up here.
Okay. I move.
Move the consent calendar.
To consent calendar. There you go.
Very good. Very
Excuse
good.
me, Mayor, I believe we have a speaker.
Yes, we do. I beg your pardon. Let's hold that motion. Mr. Kidwai, I'm sorry, sir. You are speaking.
Yeah, well, not really that welcome. That's why you want to pass over.
No, not at all.
Nick Kidwai, concerned citizen, Thousand Oaks. Sir, please do not live off the agenda. Make it. That's why I spoke before. You are allowed to put things on the agenda for the community good, like the good pastor just swore his oath to. I want to again draw the attention to the new council member that the minutes of the city council are un-American. Mr. McCoy, the minutes of this council are un-American. Maybe we can have a talk about that sometime. It's really very disgraceful, just like the un-American third-rate sign ordinance. I basically want to speak about the abuse. In fact, it looks like Pastor McCoy is already going to the dirty city of Washington, D.C. because I think you were just about to vote for $108,000 for a for an immigration issue that the city is involved in having a day labor site. And a consent calendar, by definition, it says also here that it's supposed to have routine items. It's not supposed to be cluttered with 28 items that add up to millions of dollars, unless they've already been approved. And this is a 1-year contract. And in December, it was discussed in a report. And so when you're going to vote on precious tax dollars being spent, and again, just like the un-American sign ordinance, we are the second city in this whole state
came out from the last report that spends our taxpayer dollars, $54,000 a year plus to have a day labor site. The only other one is Moore Park with $3,000. So I mean, I just forgive them $3,000 versus $54,000. In the past, we've given hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I asked respectfully that this be pulled and brought back at another meeting with more reports and stuff like that to correct the situation. And I also asked for help with Julia Brownlee. So why isn't the federal government pitching in? Same thing with H, which is I am a former member of the Chamber of Commerce. I worked for LITIP in networking, etc. I come from the business world. But the more you feed chambers and other private organizations with tax dollars, and also not have transparency, put that on the consent calendar and double. It used to be $20,000 a year. Then it went, we were supporting the tourism authority, which the city has really no business. The hotels and restaurants should do it. And people like myself in the private industry, I've sold advertising. It's taking food from our mouths by having taxpayer dollars spent. And it's always a bad idea. And I can see it. At least have a debate about it. I implore the citizens to go on the website and read 8H, which is the thing. It's just laughable. They're saying that they are giving us $187,000 in services. I mean, if that's a sale job or a con job, pray tell me. My name is not Nick Iqbal Kidwai. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kidwai. All right, we have a motion on the floor to move the consent calendar. Vote, please.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. We have 3 public hearings tonight, and let us start with the proposed sale of Shiloh Gardens to Many Mansions, and Mr. Prescott will be delivering that report. Yes, Ms. Lawrence?
I need to open the hearing.
And you must open the hearing, yes.
Thank you.
I'm on a roll tonight, aren't I? Yes, please do.
Thank you. Hearing as advertised as required by law is open to consider agenda item 9A, proposed sale of Shiloh Gardens affordable housing project to Many Mansions. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding this public hearing, and we have 1 speaker, and the speaker will be allowed 5 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. And now, Mr. Prescott, if you would please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight's public hearing relates to the proposed sale of the Shiloh Gardens affordable housing project to Many Mansions. Last year, Many Mansions submitted a proposal to the city to purchase that project, which was originally developed by the city's redevelopment agency and Many Mansions together back in the 1980s. The project is located at the intersection of Skyline Drive and Los Robles Road, just south of Thousand Oaks Boulevard. It consists of 29 apartment units, 7 one-bedroom, 16 two-bedroom, 6 three-bedrooms, and was developed in the city acquired the property back in 1984, and then it was developed in concert with Many Mansions. The units in the project are currently restricted to being affordable to households that earn 60% or less than the area median income. The land was acquired by the city's former redevelopment agency back in 1984. It was Many Mansions' first affordable project. They were formed, I believe, in the late 70s, and this was their first project. They came to the city with the idea, and we worked together with Many Mansions to have the project built in 1988. Many Mansions then managed that project per the agreement. In 1989, there was some new federal legislation. We were able to take advantage of new federal legislation that allowed companies to get tax credits for investing in affordable housing projects, and that occurred in 1989. As part of that, affordability restrictions were put on the property, meaning that it could not be utilized for any other purpose, in this case for approximately a 30-year period, which expires in 3 years. The tax credits, however, that Chevron invested in expired in about 2004, and at that point, the city redevelopment agency bought the project. We had always owned the land, but the improvements were owned by a partnership that included Chevron and Mini Mansions and the city, and actually a local nonprofit community, the Future Foundation, Conejo Future Foundation. As we know, the redevelopment agencies were dissolved by state law in 2012, and at that point, the city chose to retain the assets of the redevelopment agency, the housing assets, as allowed by law. And in early 2014, title to the property actually transferred to the city of Thousand Oaks. Currently, it's managed by Mini Mansions under an agreement with the city that was entered in 2009. Right now, it's yielding about $95,000 a year in income. I'm sorry, $190,000, which is split 50-50 with Mini Mansions. That money that the city receives goes into a special fund called the Successor Housing Entity Fund, which is restricted by state law in terms of how that money can be spent. The previous redevelopment law required the housing fund money to be spent on affordable housing affordable to low and moderate income households. SB 341, which was enacted, I believe, last year, limits the type of housing that money can be used for now. 30% of it has to be used on housing for extremely low income individuals or households, which is defined as 30% or less of area median income, and there are some other restrictions. So it's very much earmarked money for a certain segment of affordable housing. The management agreement expires in about 2.5 years. So last year, Mini Mansions approached the city with a proposal to buy the property and basically refinance it, taking advantage of the issuance of tax-exempt bonds and also new tax credit financing for the project, which would bring equity in. In order for that to occur, they had to set it up as a purchase and rehabilitation project. So they offered to buy it from the city, finance the needed rehabilitation of the almost 30-year-old project. And an appraisal was conducted by an independent third party that established the value at about $6.25 million. And Mini Mansions has incorporated that in their purchase proposal. With the cash flow from the project and the other financing requirements, they will be able to make a down payment of $279,000, which would go into the successor entity housing fund that I just described. And the balance would be, they're proposing that the city take back notes, promissory notes, to pay the balance of them. If once Mini Mansions has site control through the agreements that the council is considering tonight, they will be able to apply for the tax-exempt bond financing and the tax credit financing, which are allocated at the state level. Very good probability that both of those will be approved, and their representative can speak to that during their presentation. And then the proceeds will be used for substantial rehabilitation and other costs of the transaction, and including a developer fee for Mini Mansions. The affordability mix per the current requirements of the tax credit financing that they will be applying for will mean that 6 of the units will need to be reserved for very low income, which is 50% of area median income or below, and the balance will be at 60% as they are now. Also, there would be an extension of the affordability covenants on the project for another 55 years, which is a requirement also of the tax credit financing. Loan agreement, it's basically sets out the terms of the loans. They would be secured by deeds of trust on the property, meaning that the city would retain the right over time if there was a default to take the property back. They are residual receipts loans, which is the standard financing mechanism for affordable housing projects. That means that there are no payments made on the loans until the property generates sufficient cash flow, and then that is split 50-50 between the owner and the city as the lender. Interest on those loans will accrue at 2.29%, which is pursuant to federal tax credit rules. The loan agreement is also serves as a regulatory agreement for the project in that it includes the 55-year affordability covenants. The city also, about 8 or 9 years ago, adopted a policy regarding setting aside at least 2/3 of the units in any affordable project to be non-smoking units. That will be enforced, and it includes a schedule of performance. The schedule, which is submitted, and many mansions can speak to this, but I think they'll say that it's very generous, and they expect to be able to move more quickly than this, the schedule that's outlined here. But these are the outer limits. Once they receive the approval requested tonight, they would be in a position to submit for their tax credit and tax-exempt bond applications early next year. And those applications should be processed, and they would be able to provide evidence of financing by next September. And at that point, the transaction would close, meaning that the title would transfer to Mini Mansions. The 2 loans would be put in place. The city would receive its down payment, and they would have the construction financing as part of the whole package, and the rehab work that's needed at the project would be completed about a year later. When Mini Mansions approached the city with this request, and over the years, I didn't go into a lot of the background, but there have been other requests Mini Mansions has had to purchase the property or enter other types of agreements with the city. And it's very understandable because they were the original developer of the project. They came up with the project plan, the idea. The city, through its redevelopment agency, was able to help them build their first affordable housing project. But when this was presented to the city, we hired the firm of Kaiser Marston and Associates, who is really one of the leading firms in the state in analysis of development pro formas, particularly those that relate to affordable housing and redevelopment. And to my left is Julie Romy, a senior analyst with Kaiser Marston, who prepared the reports that I'm going to discuss in a moment. And we asked for a reuse analysis, which would analyze the development pro forma, look at different options, whether we should sell the property, whether a ground lease might work, or whether we should just retain the property and try to finance the needed rehabilitation out of the future income somehow loaned against. And the conclusion of that report was that the option to sell the property was the most beneficial from the city standpoint on a financial basis. And then also, as required by redevelopment law, before the city, as the successor to the former redevelopment agency, sells property, we're required to prepare a report called a Section 33433 report, after the Health and Safety Code section, that describes the transaction, answers specific information about the transaction, and make that available to the public, which it has been for a 2-week period. And a copy of that is included along with the reuse analysis as attachments to the staff report. And the conclusion of that report was that the city was receiving fair consideration for the property we are proposing to dispose of. In the overall evaluation of the project, we identified a number of benefits to the transaction, and these are reasons why we're recommending the city go forward with it. Very important is the ability for Mini Mansions, once it achieves control of the property through the agreements, we'll be able to access outside investment capital for the project. That would be the tax credits, which are equity going into the property, and then the tax-exempt bond, which has a lower interest rate and will help finance the project. It extends the affordability covenants another 55 years. I think affordable housing is a precious resource in Thousand Oaks. It's very needed. The ability of the city to actually go out and do new projects is severely limited by the dissolution of redevelopment agencies. So this is an opportunity to continue with a project that's worked well in the past. It also converts the ownership arrangement to something that's more typical for affordable housing projects, particularly in Thousand Oaks, also other cities, and that is where the project itself is owned and managed and operated 100% by either a nonprofit such as Mini Mansions or a public agency such as the Area Housing Authority, or in one or two cases a private company that invests in affordable housing projects. And they are also, in those cases, they have to partner with a public agency or nonprofit. Reduces the city responsibilities. As we know, we have less money, we have less staff to administer affordable housing. In this case, we would be divesting ourselves of ownership of a housing asset to an organization that is specifically geared to creating, managing, operating affordable housing projects. It will provide a stream of income to our Successor Housing Entity Fund. We note the down payment of about $279,000. There will also be projected to be residual receipts payments. In the affordable housing world, many projects never make a residual receipt payment. At the end of the loan term, the project is refinanced. In this case, we are anticipating, based on the pro forma, some payments to start in about 6 or 7 years. And it also helps through the financing process, helps sustain a valuable local nonprofit that has been providing affordable housing in our community, I think since about 1979. So based on our review and analysis that we've presented this evening, we're recommending the council adopt the resolution attached to the staff report. This will approve the purchase agreement for the price of $6.25 million, approve the loan agreement, which includes the forms for the promissory notes, the affordable housing covenants, and also authorize termination of the management agreement once the transaction is complete, because there would be no more need for us to basically agree with Many Mansions over that, and that the city manager be authorized to sign the necessary documents. That concludes my presentation. Many Mansions is represented here this evening. I believe their president will be speaking. Also, Ms. Romy of Kaiser Marston is available, and also other staff that worked with me on the transaction, Patrick Heer from the City Attorney's Office and John Adams, the Finance Director.
Thank you, Mr. Prescott. Questions for staff? Ms. Pena?
Thank you, Mayor Adam. Good evening, Mr. Prescott. Thank you for the detailed presentation. I basically have a couple of questions. You mentioned that affordable housing in Thousand Oaks is a precious resource, and I would certainly agree with that. In your presentation, it all makes sense. However, I did not hear what the cons are to this proposal. What are the disadvantages, if any?
Well, I think one disadvantage is the city would be giving up the immediate revenue stream of $95,000 a year. Now, there are needed rehabilitation and improvements that need to be done to the project, so if we didn't sell it and bring in outside capital to actually help with that rehabilitation, then it's our dime, and we would continue to, I assume, agree with Many Mansions that they would manage it, but we would then have to come up with the money for the rehabilitation without that outside source of funding. But again, on the con side, we're losing the $95,000 a year.
Okay, so that's per year. You mentioned the Successor Housing Entity Fund. Is this different from our Housing Trust Fund?
Yes, it is. The Housing Trust Fund is a local trust fund, and its expenditures are basically governed by the former redevelopment law, in that the money in that fund has to be used to basically produce affordable housing, but at the lower moderate level. So it covers a broader income spectrum than the Successor Housing Fund.
Okay, and those two funds could not be combined then?
A given project could be financed out of both funds, if it met the requirements. And the main requirement for the Successor Housing Entity Fund is that 30% of the money spent out of that fund has to be used for units that are affordable to extremely low income, and that's not a requirement of our housing trust fund. So you could have a given project that had some extremely low income units. You put some of the, I'll call it the Successor Housing money into it to pay for those units, and then Housing Trust Fund to pay for the other units, and it would work fine.
And my final question, if you could just go over it again, when we would actually be able to split proceeds 50-50 or revenue 50-50?
I believe it's in about 7 or 8 years, 2022, somewhere in that range. Julie, do you have year 8, so that would be 2024 if 2016 was year 1. It's year 8.
2024? Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Mr. Fox.
Do we have speaker cards?
We do. One.
Okay, let me just,
Rick Schrader.
Mansions. Yeah. No questions yet.
All right, very good. And we do have a speaker card, Mr. Rick Schrader. He is the president of Many Mansions. Good evening, Rick.
Thank you, Mayor Adam, members of the City Council, members of City staff, Council Member McCoy. I am Rick Schrader, president of Many Mansions, and with me tonight is also Alexander Russell, our executive vice president. As most of you know, Many Mansions is a nonprofit affordable housing and service provider. In our 35-year history, we have developed and now manage 9 affordable housing complexes here in the city of Thousand Oaks with over 450 units of affordable housing. But Shiloh Gardens is special for us. As Mr. Prescott said, Shiloh Gardens was our very first housing development back almost 30 years ago in partnership with the city and its redevelopment agency and other entities. Recently, as most of you know, Many Mansions moved our main office. And in that process, we had to go through lots of old records, lots of old files. And I came across several boxes of the original tenant files for Shiloh Gardens, the records of the very first residents that we had at Shiloh Gardens. And it got me to thinking that, since that property opened on January 2nd, 1988, so many individuals and families have lived at Shiloh Gardens. Single mothers, intact families, children, senior citizens, disabled individuals, persons that were formerly homeless. A very diverse group, but all who were struggling to find stable, safe, and affordable housing, and all who were seeking to have a better life. And really, what a tremendous asset Shiloh Gardens has been to this Thousand Oaks community, and what a wonderful partnership Many Mansions has had with the city and its redevelopment in this development and the management of this property. So on behalf of all the Shiloh Gardens residents, past and present, we thank you for your support. As to the proposal, we seek to do a number of things with this. We seek to, under the proposal, to extend this long-time partnership and support, and to preserve Shiloh Gardens as an affordable housing property for the community, not just for 10 or 15 years, but for the next 55 years, but under an arrangement that we've had with the city with all our other affordable housing properties, where Many Mansions is the owner and the manager, and the city's role is that of a lender and supporter. But under the proposal, we also seek to deepen its affordability by reserving 6 units to very low income. But mainly, we seek to bring financial resources to the property so we can perform needed rehabilitation to enhance the safety and well-being of the property, but also to increase its durability and efficiency. Mr. Prescott didn't really go into all the rehab that we're doing, but through this rather complicated transaction, we are bringing over $1.8 million in funds for the rehabilitation. And some of the items include replacing the windows and sliders, replacing the HVAC system to increase energy efficiency, to repair and strengthen all the wood balconies that the property has, roof repair and replacement, replacing the driveway, repairing carports, making 3 of the units fully handicap accessible, installing solid core doors, redoing the playground. And this rehab, after 30 years, is needed to preserve this property and also to increase the safety, health, and well-being of it, and to improve energy efficiency. Now, admittedly, this is a complicated transaction. This is affordable housing. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about the rehab or the financing or the basic structure. But again, I thank you for all of your support, and I thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Schrader. Mr. Fox, did you have a question? The speaker? No? All right. Ms. LaPena? Mr. Price? Mr. McCoy? Got to go around the table here. All right. Well, very good, Mr. Schrader. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
And we do have 2 written statement cards in favor of the sale as well. So those will be entered into the record. Mr. Prescott, any follow-up?
No, sir.
All right. Any further questions of staff?
Yeah.
Mr. Fox.
There's, if you followed that at home, that was probably painful. Let me just try to clarify just the financial terms of this. Basically, the city is selling 2 mini mansions, an apartment house for the amount of $6.275 million. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And we're providing a seller loan that's actually 2 loans, one for $3.875, the second loan for a little over $2 million. And the reason we're doing 2 loans is to provide, without getting into a lot of the detail, mini mansions the opportunity to qualify for tax-exempt bonds, which our staff report talks about a 50% test, which has a lot of regulations to it, for them to qualify for, in part, these capital improvements and doing the rehab that's needed in this property. That's basically the deal points, correct?
Correct. Plus, we do get the down payment.
Oh, yeah.
And
Exactly.
And the tax credit equity that comes into the project as a result of the
right.
mansion.
So to pay the loan back, they're going to give us about $279,000 as a cash down payment. And then in 2024, we're going to start receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of $27,000 a year, and that may go up and varying over the years. Those are basically the deal points. Thank you for pointing that out. Some may be asking, why is the city doing this? And the answer is, this is not a money-making venture. We're providing affordable housing. We've long partnered with many mansions, the Area Housing Authority. This is not a money-making venture for the city, but at the same time, we're not doing public fund giveaways. That's why we had an independent evaluation of this. Kaiser Marson came out, and if I heard Mr. Prescott correctly, they said, hey, these deal points, these financial deal points make sense for a municipal agency. Is that correct, Mr. Prescott?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're meeting all the regulatory requirements in this transaction, and because of redevelopment being abolished, there are good reasons why the city would want to enter into this type of agreement with Mini Mansions, who's been a long and very successful operator of affordable housing. So, I just wanted to kind of clarify that, because I'm sure all of you who are listening, including maybe even the council, there's a lot of complexities to affordable housing, as Mr. Schrader points out, but some takeaways. Number one, the city has long held a policy of providing quality affordable housing in the community. We're very proud of that. We're award winners. It's very difficult to identify an affordable project in Thousand Oaks from a market rate project. We take great pride in that. We have great operators, and Mini Mansions has done a very good job. The essence of this deal is to continue to provide affordable housing, at the same time be responsible stewards of public monies. It's not necessarily general fund monies, because in this case it is not. But that's essentially what I want to get clarified. With respect to if things don't work out the way they want them to work out, as we read the report, the city retains essentially the deed to the property, or the ability to get the property back if something gets turned upside down. Is that what's the safety valve for the city if for some reason Mini Mansions was unable to perform on the loan?
The city would be holding deeds of trust, so similar to a mortgage. If somebody doesn't make their mortgage payments, the lender has the right ultimately to take the property back.
Right.
And that's the position we would be in. We would be holding deeds of trust on the property itself, secured by the property. Right.
And the property, of course, has been appraised at a little over $6.2 million. So in a sense, the city's investment is protected by the value of the property.
That's correct. And what we're really doing here is making the conscious decision that we want to retain it as affordable housing.
Right.
The current covenants expire in 3 years. At that point, there's nothing legally requiring that to be affordable housing. It's just a public policy decision by the city council itself.
Okay. Unless council has questions or comments, I'll make a motion. In fact, I'll just go ahead and put the motion on the floor. I'm going to move for recommendation 1, 2, and 3 and the attached resolutions to provide a purchase agreement and joint escrow instructions for Shiloh Gardens in the amount of $6.25 million. Number 2, for the loan agreement with Mini Mansions for an additional 55 years. And number 3, concurrent and closing of the sale, termination of the existing management and revenue sharing agreement.
All right. If there are no further discussion or questions, I'll close the public hearing, and then there is a motion by Mr. Fox. Any discussion? Mr. Price.
Not really discussion, but there was a note in the section 433 report that summarizes this financial transaction. And while I know it is extremely complex because it has to be in order for this to work, but there is a note in here that the net city revenue from the deal ends up being a little over $17 million in the end. So what is not being done right now for any financial purpose does in fact net the city significantly more than that purchase price. So just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, Mr. Price. Yeah, I'm going to support the motion. I think it's a win all the way around. The city gets an income flow, but more important, it's a win for the residents of Shiloh Gardens. That project needs rehab, and this sale will ensure that happens through tax credit financing and tax-exempt bonds. It wouldn't happen otherwise. It also makes sure that we continue the affordability of this project for another 55 years, and that is important here in Thousand Oaks, that we have affordable housing. And it also ensures the long-term viability of our premier partner in affordable housing, and that is Mini Mansions. So, like I said, it's good all the way around. And if there's no further discussion, we have a motion on the floor to approve the sale. Would you vote, please?
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we do have a second public hearing on the Landscape and Lighting Assessment District. And Ms. Lawrence, if you would be so kind.
Hearing advertised as required by law is open to consider agenda item 9B, Landscape and Lighting Assessment District 79-2, a public hearing for the annual levy for fiscal year 15-16. Speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council, and we have no speaker cards on this item.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Mr. Spurgeon, tell us about the Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is our annual public hearing to set assessments for the city's Landscape and Lighting Assessment District for the next fiscal year. I did want to introduce to my left our district consultant, Dennis Anderson from Harrison Associates, and next to him is senior engineer Jim Taylor from my staff who manages this program. So our Landscape and Lighting Assessment District actually was originally formed in 1979. In 1996, it was restructured into the now 39 different benefit zones for landscaping and a separate lighting district. Of the almost 43,000 separate parcels in the city, 42% actually fall in the landscape district and are assessed. And about 81% of those parcels are assessed for street lighting. Through these districts, the city maintains over 10 million square feet of landscaping, 27,000 street trees, 8,000 street lights, and over 150 traffic signals and lighted crosswalks. Our proposed budget for next year for landscaping is $7.7 million, and for street lighting, $2 million. The annual assessments for landscaping actually range quite a bit, from a low of $40 per residence per year to $416 per resident per year. For lighting, the assessments are $13.95 per resident per year. So the increase from the current year for landscaping, the average is about 4.8% increase, and for street lighting, it's 3% increase. Our recommendations, there's two tonight. One is to approve the final engineer's report, which is in fact provided through the supplemental packet, and then approving resolutions ordering the assessments for next year so that we can get those placed on the tax rolls. Staff would be happy to answer any questions you may have on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Spurgeon. Questions from Mr. Spurgeon? Ms. Villa-Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Spurgeon. The question I had, would this new, if approved, this proposal cover some of the costs that we will incur due to the drought, which means changing the landscaping?
The increase in assessments throughout the landscape district are twofold. One, we are increasing assessments by the voter-approved 3% inflationary rate, and those are for benefit zones where the assessments are already at the maximum rate that we're able to charge. That's probably over half, little over half of the benefit zones of those 39 zones. That's where we're at. We're already charging the maximum assessment. For the remaining benefit zones, we look at the budgets, the proposed budgets, including anticipated costs for things like tree trimming and contract services and electricity and water, which is a big part of our budget, of course. And so many of those zones are being increased a greater amount than 3% because we're allowed to do that up to the maximum amount. Specifically, zone by zone, the impacts of the drought in terms of some of the medians that are turning brown now because of the state mandates to stop watering those. Clearly, we will need to do some work in those areas going forward. Those have not been completely identified in terms of the costs, and part of going forward with our landscape master plan, which will be before you in terms of a contract approval next meeting later this summer and into the fall, we'll have more details about that. I think that we'll have more information specifically to your question for next year's budget, and we'll certainly incorporate those needs into the district budget next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I'm ready to move if there are no speakers.
I had one question. Any other questions? All right. So the max adjustment on the lighting is 3%, and that's voter approved.
That is correct.
All right. Is there a max adjustment on the landscape portion?
It's also 3% in terms of raising the maximum allowable assessment. But there are some zones where we can actually increase the assessments more than 3% because we have some capacity between where they're currently assessed and what the maximum assessment rate is.
I see. Yeah, because it mentioned the staff report 4.8, but there's some, like you say, excess capacity in there, and
That's
we're still within the 3% range. Okay. And the landscape portion has no general fund subsidy. However, the lighting does.
The budget for landscaping is split into two areas. The areas that fall within the benefit zones, within the landscape district itself, and then there's general fund or general benefit areas. The general benefit areas are funded from the general fund, as they always have been. Within the landscape district zones themselves, there are for this budget, we have over $600,000 of ad valorem revenues, in addition to the over $700,000 of assessments, and then there is a reserve fund draw for this budget, but no general fund subsidy this year.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to, if there's no further question, I'm going to close the public hearing. Ms. Villalpena, would you care to make a motion?
I'll move recommendations 1 and 2.
All right, motion on the floor to move the staff recommendation. Vote, please.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. And we have one other public hearing, and that is a municipal code amendment for rooftop solar. If you would open that hearing, Ms. Lawrence, you're busy tonight.
Hearing advertised as required by law is open to consider agenda item 9C, a municipal code amendment MCA 2015-70107 to create streamlined review process for small residential rooftop solar energy system installations in compliance with state law. A speaker card is available for those wishing to address the City Council regarding this hearing, and we have no cards.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Mr. Huners, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight's public hearing is necessary because of a new state law. The installation of solar energy systems is being strongly encouraged by the state of California. Assembly Bill 2188 now requires every city and county in the state to adopt an ordinance by September 30th of this year that mandates an expedited and streamlined process of permitting and inspection of small rooftop-mounted solar energy systems that are installed on single-family residences and duplexes. The city currently is mandated by the state to permit and inspect all types of buildings and structures, including solar systems. Under this new law, small rooftop-mounted systems will need to be processed following guidelines established by the state. Many solar systems have already been installed in Thousand Oaks. An average of 750 systems are being installed each year. By adopting the ordinance, the city will fulfill the requirements of state law by establishing a checklist of all requirements for expedited review in substantial compliance with the California Solar Permitting Guidebook, making the checklist available to the public by posting it on the city website. Permit applications may be submitted in person, by mail, or by electronic means. The proposed solar systems must be constructed to comply with building, electrical, fire code requirements. Permits are to be expeditiously reviewed and approved administratively. And inspection of the installed system to be completed by one inspection. However, additional inspections may be necessary if corrections need to be made. Implementation of the ordinance will help to further city's customer service philosophy of establishing and implementing policies and programs to provide excellent community service in a fair, efficient, and responsive manner. Therefore, adoption of the ordinance is recommended, and staff is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huners. Questions for Mr. Huners? Mr. Price.
Yes, Mr. Huners, good evening. Thank you. I know that while this was working its way through the legislative process, this was not something that made us particularly happy here at Thousand Oaks, because we do a very good job of issuing those permits. My question is this: what impact is it going to have on our ability to provide these in a timely manner, and where do we give at this point?
Well, we are working toward making the system more available online to customers. That will be something we'll work on to allow the applicants to do the applications electronically, and hopefully that will streamline things a little bit. But other than that, we are doing quite a good job, and without any complaints that I know of from customers.
Yeah, I want to make that point for any of you out there who either don't have or maybe have already gone through the process. You know a little bit about it. I installed solar at my residence about 4 or 5 years ago now, and I thought that the permit process was extremely streamlined at that point. Things went very quickly. I guess when it slowed down was when it was turned over, it was done, and it was time for Southern California Edison to turn it on, flip the switch, if you will. There I experienced any delays, or some delays, but this has nothing to do, this will not speed that process up, will it?
No, that's a separate process from the city's process.
And there's no mandate to them, to Southern California Edison, to expedite their process that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Huners. If there are no further questions, I'm going to close the hearing and ask Mr. Price for a motion.
I'd be happy to move this item, recommendations 1 and 2. And what number is this? 9C.
9C. All right. Motion move 9C. Vote, please.
The motion carries 5-0, and the ordinance title is an ordinance adding section 8-1.26, small residential rooftop solar system review process, to the municipal code in order to provide expedited, streamlined permitting process for small residential rooftop solar energy systems in compliance with state law.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Now we are going to move on to some commission reports. First up, Cultural Affairs Commission. We have Stephanie Wilson to talk to us about the Community Events Endowment Fund grants. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Mayor Adam and council members and very hardworking staff. I'm Stephanie Wilson, proud to serve on the Cultural Affairs Commission and also proud to chair the Community Outreach Committee, one of 2 committees on the commission. And I'm here to report on our Community Events Endowment Fund. Our 2015-16 grant recommendations. These started in our committee, and then they have gone to the full Cultural Commission, and now they are coming to you with hopeful approval. I wish I could see better. This fund, I probably know by heart. This fund provides $100,000 in financial support to cultural, organizational, educational, even athletic activities. Way back, I think Council Member Fox might remember in 97, thank you, in 97 or 99, we allocated roughly 66.6% of the funds to culture and the arts, with 33.3% of the funds designated for other community events. And the interesting thing is, it's turned out that that's been exactly what we've done for the last few years without really having to check our math. It just has worked out that way. But it was very exciting way back then. $15,000 saved in case the Little League wins the pennant and gets to go somewhere. So or another event comes up that we don't know about. So $15,000 is in reserve. So we are only recommending $85,000 in funding. We received 32 grant applications, and our requests totaled $157,250. I have to say that several of these requests were over the amount that was suggested in our guidelines. Our guidelines say the most that an event could request or an organization can request is $8,500, and there's other little kinds of guidelines. And I'll also insert here that we have taught, for the last 2 years, we've taught a workshop on how to fill out the grant applications, and the workshop covered general grant writing and proposal writing, but specifically the city's application. So it included our guidelines, how to apply, who to ask questions to, and we do notice who attends the workshops because they seem to do a really good job on their applications. So the balance of $15,000 would remain for an unanticipated off-cycle request. So these are the lists of the grantees. They range, as you can see, from choirs to Shakespeare to ballet to visual arts to dance. So we're very, and the Scandinavian Festival, we're very happy with the variety. And I also have to insert here that these applications came to us, the deadline was on a Thursday, and the staff was amazing. They scanned them and sent them to my committee in a day, and we had the weekend to review them, and then we met on Monday and suggested funding, and that's it's fun, but it's not always easy task to decide who gets what. But because the staff got us those reports so quickly, we were able to read through all of them, then meet and discuss them, and then present them to the full commission so that we can get them to you before the end of the fiscal year so that these organizations can plan for the upcoming year. Most of them have a fiscal year that goes July 1st through June 30th. So we're on time this year, and I hope we can stay on time because this was very exciting. So I recommend that our recommendations come through my committee to the full commission and then through staff. So you have the recommendations in front of you. I am very happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Questions for Stephanie? Ms. Biddle-DePena.
Good evening.
Hi.
I just have one question. Thank you, first of all, for doing this arduous task. It is challenging. It is difficult to decide who gets what and how much. My question is between the Conejo Las Virgenes Future Foundation and the Conejo Schools Foundation. How are they different? I mean, they're different foundations, obviously, but what purpose or what mission do they have?
Well, I can tell you that the Conejo Las Virgenes Future Foundation, these are events, I think there were 3 events, and I wish I don't have all, I should.
Yeah, I think we heard from them earlier this evening.
I usually have my notebook with me with everything in it, but this was for 3 events, and they varied in style from recognition events to events that served their volunteers and served the public. And for the Conejo Schools Foundation, I don't have a clue.
The Conejo Schools Foundation is for the concerts that they have. Of
course.
For the bands and the choirs.
Of course.
And the orchestras that they hold on the Kavli Theater each year.
Is that the All Schools District Festival?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now I remember when I'm looking at it. Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Stephanie. Not easy to distribute funds when the requests are for 50% more than what you have. And also, just as a personal side, thank you for your 2 decades of service to the arts here in the community. Did I get that right?
Yes, you
yeah,
did.
I think I did, didn't I?
Thank you, and it's my passion.
Really appreciate all that you do. Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor Adam.
You're welcome.
And thank you to everybody, and specifically our staff, because they're amazing. And so, thank you.
Very good. All right, Mr. McCoy, would you care to make a motion to approve the grant expenditures as recommended by the Cultural Affairs Commission?
I make a motion to approve the grant expenditures of the cultural. Yes.
That's right. All right.
You're
Thank you very
me.
much. We have a motion on the floor. Vote, please. Yes.
Waiting for Mr. McCoy's vote.
Oh, all right.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. I like to spread it around a little bit, motion-wise. All right. Next, Mr. Jerry Miller, Chair of the Cultural Affairs Commission, is going to tell us about your activities and give us your annual report. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, Al. Mayor Adam, members of the City Council, I am Jerry Miller, and as the Chair of the Cultural Affairs Commission, it is my distinct pleasure to provide you with a brief overview of the Commission's activities over the last 12 months. First, allow me to provide a little background on the Commission itself. The Cultural Affairs Commission was established in 2010 to serve as an advisory body to City Council on matters pertaining to arts and cultural development in the city, with priority focus on the Bank of America's Performing Arts Center at the Civic Arts Plaza. The Commission is comprised of 11 commissioners approved by City Council, with 8 members nominated by the Council's Cultural Arts Review Committee, 2 members nominated by the Alliance for the Arts, and 1 member nominated by the Friends of the Civic Arts Plaza, which is the Usher Corps and others who support the work of the Friends of the Civic Arts Plaza. During the past year, the Commission has continued to focus its efforts on the implementation of the remaining Cultural Affairs Cultural Arts Review Plan, balancing the theater's fund budget, recognizing the 20th anniversary season of the Civic Arts Plaza, and maximizing the community benefit of city support for arts and cultural programs throughout the community. The Cultural Affairs Commission is a working commission, and as such fulfills its assigned responsibilities through a structure of 3 standing committees. These are the Community Outreach Committee, the Theater Operations Committee, and the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza Foundation. Each commissioner serves on at least one of these standing committees. This evening, I would like to highlight some of the activities and projects of the Commission and these standing committees. First, the Community Outreach Committee. The Community Outreach Committee is charged with oversight of arts advocacy, visual and public arts, official city cultural events, community grant programs, promoting collaboration among local arts organizations, cultural tourism, and development of a Thousand Oaks Cultural Master Plan. The committee reviewed Antoinette Hagopian's proposed donation of a bronze sculpture in memory of her husband, Michael, titled Reading Together by artist Dennis V. Smith, which would be located at the entrance to the Thousand Oaks Children's Library. The Commission determined that the sculpture met the guidelines governing art donations to the city, and in September 2014, City Council approved that donation. The sculpture is currently being cast, and it is anticipated that it will be installed at the library early in the fall. During the course of the year, the committee curated and sponsored 3 art exhibits in the Fred Kavli Theater art galleries. These included Expressions x3, which was in place from March through August 2014, A Look Back, which was in place from September 2014 to February 2015, and Captivating, which was in place from March until earlier this month. The next exhibition will open in early July. The Cultural Affairs Commission, in association with the City of Agoura Hills, sponsored the 2015 Greater Conejo Valley Open Studio Tour on April 18th. More than 100 artists were featured this year at 23 locations, and complimentary bus tours of artist studios located in the city of Thousand Oaks were also made available. The committee administered 34 community events endowment fund grants for fiscal year 2014-2015 and reviewed and processed 32 applications for the 2015-2016 grant cycle. The committee chair, Stephanie Wilson, recommended just moments ago to you for approval of these grants, and we appreciate your approval. This committee also processed an application from the Thousand Oaks Arts Festival seeking official city cultural event designation for its event, which will be held in September 2015. City Council approved the Commission's recommendation to approve up to $17,500 in financial support in addition to the in-kind support from city staff. This is the 3rd year that the Thousand Oaks Arts Festival has received this designation from the city. This committee also established a timeline to develop a cultural master plan for the city of Thousand Oaks, which is the last remaining recommendation from the Arts Review Plan that has not yet been completed. As one of the first steps in developing the master plan, the Commission will join together with the Americans for the Arts and local community partners next fall to undertake a study to measure the economic impact of the arts in the Conejo Valley. The Theater Operations Committee is charged with oversight of the financial sustainability of the theater's enterprise fund, audience development, marketing of the theaters, programming, resident arts organizations, arts education school performances, and the development of a theater's strategic plan going forward. On October 22nd, that date marked the 20th anniversary of the opening of the Kavli and Share Forum Theaters, now known as the Bank of America Performing Arts Center. In recognition of this milestone, the committee planned a number of special events, including the following: a free anniversary concert in the Kavli Theater featuring comedian Wendy Liebman, American Idol's Brooke White, and Grammy winner David Benoit. An event to recognize 40 volunteers of the Friends of the Civic Arts Plaza who have provided 20 years of committed service to the theaters in their ushering roles. A special Founders Day event was held in association with the Alliance for the Arts to recognize members of the community who played an important role in making the Civic Arts Plaza become a reality for the community. And finally, a free day of performances in the Kavli Theater and Share Forum, presenting a wide variety of local performers, which included even a birthday cake for all in attendance. The committee worked with the Cultural Affairs Department staff to launch the first independent website for the theaters, which went live in September 2014. The new website provides improved access for patrons looking for information on upcoming performances, purchasing tickets, seeking directions to the Civic Arts Plaza, or wanting information on how to rent the theater venues. More than 73,000 people have visited the new website since its launch last September. The committee also administered the first formal application process for Resident Arts Organization designation. In October, 3 organizations seeking renewal of their status and 1 new applicant submitted applications. After formal interviews with each applicant, the Cultural Affairs Commission recommended that the City Council renew Resident Arts Organization status for the following: Cabrillo Music Theater, New West Symphony, and the Pacific Festival Ballet for a term of 3 years. At the City Council's direction, the committee is reviewing the current policy governing resident arts organizations, and the Commission anticipates forwarding its recommendation to City Council on this matter in the fall. This committee also established a timeline to complete a strategic plan for the theaters by June 30, 2016. Members of the Commission will participate in strategic planning sessions over the summer with representatives of the city and the Alliance for the Arts. The Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza Foundation is charged with oversight of the CAP Presents in-house concert presentations, the operation of the theater's concessions, marketing of foundation programs, the financial sustainability of these CAP Presents programs, and program grants for the theaters and the Cultural Affairs Commission. The foundation also presented 23 CAP Presents performances in fiscal year 2014-15, featuring artists such as the following: Kenny Loggins, Sarah Evans, the Tenors, Straight No Chaser, Joffrey Ballet, Lyle Lovett, and Air Supply. These performances attracted more than 18,600 patrons. Average attendance for CAP Presents shows was up by 26% over the previous year. The foundation expanded the concessions menu to include additional food items, premium coffees, and a wider selection of wines. In addition, the staffing during events was realigned to improve patron service and the profitability of the operation. In the coming year, the Commission will explore funding options to underwrite the development of a cultural master plan for Thousand Oaks, coordinate the arts and economic prosperity study, and complete a formal strategic plan for the city. A large dose, but we expect to fulfill all 3 commitments. On behalf of the Cultural Affairs Commission, I am pleased that we could share this story about the work of the Commission over this past year, and I ask that you now receive and file our annual report for 2014-15. Thank you for your time this evening. Cultural Affairs Director Barry McComb and I are available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Questions for Mr. Miller? Jerry, thank you.
Thank you.
Great report. The Cultural Affairs Commission has been quite a busy organization over the last year.
It has been more than the last.
Yeah, and I want to thank you, Jerry, personally for your many years of commitment to the arts here in Thousand Oaks. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Bella LaPena.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Miller and the Cultural Affairs Commission for the vision and foresight to develop a cultural master plan for the city of Thousand Oaks. I think it is a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Belva-Penny, would you care to offer some motion on receiving the report?
Move to approve the report by the Cultural Affairs Commission.
All right. Thank you. Motion on the floor. Vote, please. Mr. Fox, sorry.
Yeah, just want to thank Dr. Miller and the entire committee. Just by way of history, prior to 2010, we didn't have a Cultural Affairs Commission, and many things that we were dealing with in the arts community, I know, many of them recognize that. It was splintered at best, not collaborative, really just kind of a lot of great people doing a lot of work, but not in a coherent fashion. Some of the things that Dr. Miller talked about tonight actually ended up here at the council. So they do a lot of good work. They do work for certainly the city staff, Mr. McComb, and they clarify a number of arts issues that prior to their convening came to the council on a piecemeal basis. And council's well aware tonight's a good example of the type of agenda that the council has. Their focus is purely on arts, and so the issues that are brought forward to the council, and really more importantly, what's handled at the commission, get the care, the time, the dedication, and really the expertise of people who really know what they're talking about. They've done very good work for us. Just as important as our planning and transportation committees, they do great work. And just again, thank you for your report, and thank you for your work that you do throughout the year.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fox. And we do have a motion on the floor. If you'd vote, please.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we have Tammy Helmuth to give us a report from the Business Roundtable. And Tammy's not here, so we're going to talk to Mr. Haider Alawami. Is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Mayors, members of council.
Very
Tammy hurt her ankle today, so she's out of commission.
Right.
So I'll make a brief presentation. The Business Roundtable, they have 5 tasks, and each task have a subcommittee they're working on. And those tasks, those subcommittees are green business, signage, development and planning, economic development. What the Business Roundtable recommend is that to merge small business assistance task with economic development to create 4 tasks, which will correspond to 4 subcommittees. They feel that way they can have a little more control having 4 subcommittees and 4 tasks rather than 5. So that's what they're proposing for their next 2-year work plan. I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Alawami? Ms. Belva-Pena? Yes.
Yes, just a quick question on the signs. I thought we took this up many years ago. I don't know how many years ago, and I thought we would have that wrapped up.
Yes, there is a municipal code amendment regarding the signs for monument sign that's pending with staff. However, the committee felt that they'd like to look at the temporary signs situation and work with staff and come back to the city council with a recommendation on the temporary signs.
When you say temporary signs, are you talking about the ones about which we receive so many complaints?
Yes, they are the one, the A-frame, the banners, the flags, those are the temporary signs that...
What about the human spinning ones? Is that another one?
We can throw them in there too as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Questions? No? All right. Mr. Fox, would you make a motion to approve the Business Roundtable work plan?
Sure, I'll move the staff recommendation on the Business Roundtable work plan.
All right. Motion on the floor. Vote, please.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Huners, tell us about the Back to Business program.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Staff believes that this program will provide benefit to the business community and the city in general. After an earthquake or other disaster, damaged buildings will be inspected and posted for reoccupancy or closure using standardized inspection and posting procedures. These postings are enforceable by law as required by the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code. As building official, I will prioritize public safety above all other concerns. At the same time, affected businesses will seek to minimize business interruption and resume building operations as soon as safely possible. The proposed Back to Business B2B program establishes an agreement between owners and tenants in the city and designated pre-certified deputy inspectors. We cannot prevent disasters such as earthquakes, but we can try to prepare for them. By way of background, a building occupancy resumption program currently exists in some cities in Northern California and the city of Glendale. After the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake in the Bay Area, private building owners experienced delays in having their buildings inspected for occupancy safety, while building inspectors and mutual aid inspectors were engaged and focused on inspection of collapsed structures, critical facilities, and city buildings. Some buildings used by businesses were posted in air, and others were evacuated awaiting inspection, causing business interruption. Following the 1994 Northridge earthquake, city inspection resources in Thousand Oaks were heavily burdened with hundreds of requests for safety assessment inspections. It resulted in 1,600 safety assessments were performed by the city in the weeks and months following the earthquake and its aftershocks. The proposed B2B program has been modeled after the Northern California program. Building owners will employ qualified engineers who are licensed in California and also have been certified by the state under the safety assessment program. These engineers will have design and inspection experience with buildings of similar size and complexity to the business. They will develop building-specific post-disaster inspection plans, and then building division staff will review the engineer's qualifications and inspection plans. Upon approval, the city gives the building owner and their engineer inspector official city placards with which to post the building following a disaster, and authorizes automatic deputizing of the engineer inspector upon declaration of a local emergency. Because these engineers are very familiar with the building structure and know where to look for areas of highest stress concentration and potential damage, this will facilitate rapid decisions regarding closure, repair, or reoccupancy of the building. B2B program is designed to reduce the inspection delay and ease the burden of inspection by city inspectors that may need to focus resources on more severely stressed areas of the city. In conclusion, staff recommends approval of the B2B program, believes it will provide benefit to both the business community and the city in general. And I'd like to thank the city staff, county staff, and our partners from Amgen who worked hammering this program together. And thank you. We're available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Huners. Questions from Mr. Huners? Mr. Price? No. All right. Then, Mr. Price, I beg your pardon. We do have two folks here for questions if we happen to have them. Cheryl Meisner and David Barley, both from Amgen. Hello. In that case, thank you, Mr. Midnick. Mr. Price, would you care to make a motion?
Absolutely, and thanks to our folks from Amgen. I hope you've enjoyed watching the entire meeting up until this point, and sorry to keep you so late, but from a public safety perspective, one of the most important things after natural disaster is restoring the services, restoring businesses. It cuts down on the looting that tends to take place. Having lived through the 1994 earthquake and being a police officer in the city of Los Angeles, I can tell you firsthand that what you want to do is restore things to as close to normal as possible in as short a period of time as possible too. This is the kind of program that will allow us to do that here in Thousand Oaks. This is good forward thinking, well conceived, and I think it's been I'm surprised that as progressive as this city is, we haven't come up with something like this before now. But with that, I'm happy to recommend approval of item 4B.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And we have a motion on the floor. If there's no further discussion, vote please.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming down this evening, Ms. Meisner and Mr. Barley. All right. We have one more department report, and this has to do with the Rim of the Valley Corridor Special Resources Study. Shelley Mason, COSCA manager, is here to talk to us about that. Good evening, Shelley.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Adam and council members. The National Park Service began the Rim of the Valley Corridor Special Resource Study in 2008 and released the draft study findings and environmental assessment in spring 2015. Staff has followed the study's progress, participated in public workshops, and submitted comment letters detailing the importance of our local natural and cultural resources for consideration in the study. I'm pleased to introduce Margie Steigerwald of the National Park Service to give you a brief overview of the study findings and proposed management alternatives. Thanks.
Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting us here this evening. This is a very exciting time for this study, which I plan to just keep this as brief as possible, give you a little bit of background, and mostly focus on the alternatives tonight. In 2008, the Congress asked the National Park Service to conduct a study of the area known as the Rim of the Valley Corridor, to look at it as possibly a new unit of the National Park Service, or to look at a boundary adjustment to an existing unit. In this case, that's the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. And they also asked us to elaborate on other opportunities that we saw for public enjoyment and protection of significant resources. We've been at this since 2010, and we've had a couple of other public input opportunities, public comment periods, but this is our last one before the report goes to final. So we issued a draft in April, about a 400-page report identifying all the significant resources and then going into an environmental analysis of 4 alternatives. We plan to have a final report at the end of this calendar year or early next year. Just to give you a sense of where we focused our attention, the Rim of the Valley study area is all the area that you see in the dashed line there. The yellow is Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, an existing unit of the National Park Service. And that is included in the Rim of the Valley Corridor, but obviously it's already been evaluated for its significance and is already a national park unit. Over to the east, you'll see the Angeles National Forest, and part of that was included in our study area, as well as part of the area that's now been designated the San Gabriel Mountains National Monument by President Obama back in October. The area that we focused on the most is areas that have not already been considered nationally significant, and those are the areas in purple. So basically the upland areas around Conejo Valley, so around Thousand Oaks here, around Simi Valley, around the San Fernando Valley, around the La Crescenta Valley, over east of the Verdugos, as well as around the Santa Clarita Valley. And as I mentioned, we did 2 analyses. One is for the area, looking at it as possible new national park, and the other is the boundary adjustment. And we did find nationally significant resources that were based on the geology of the transverse ranges. It's very unique nationally as well as internationally to have these east-west ranges. There are many fossils in the area, more so than most of the United States. It's a biodiversity hotspot, being in this Mediterranean climate. Lots of rare species concentrated here, and then the cultural resources are significant as well. I'll try to move on to the alternatives, which in the report we present 4 alternatives. The first one is continuation of current management, the no action alternative, which is required by the National Environmental Policy Act. The second alternative is one of cooperative conservation partnerships, so the National Park Service would not own any land in alternative B, but would perhaps be a convener of conservation partnerships. Alternative C and D are both boundary expansions of the current national park that's here, the National Recreation Area of Santa Monica Mountains. The things that are common to all of the alternatives are that the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area partnership-based management approach with limited National Park Service ownership would be is what we would project forward, in that the current recreation area, the National Park Service only owns 15% of the land, just to give you a sense of it, and half of the land is owned by private property, and it's just treated the same as private property outside of a park boundary. The Forest Service would continue to be managed by the Forest Service, so that's common in all of our alternatives. We did not include any of the forests, even though we looked at it. We did not include it in our alternatives. And it also respects the complex mix of local land use and existing regulatory authorities. So everything, whoever the zoning, the county zoning, the city zoning, all that would stay the same. And whoever the current landowner is would stay the same. It's just that we would be another party at the table, and if there was a strategic piece of land with significant resources, or perhaps that was needed for a trailhead or a piece of a trail segment, federal money could be used to purchase that in the two alternatives that include a boundary expansion. So that's the main difference. Alternative A, again, is no change. I think the main thing to take away from this map is you can see all the different landowners. The Casca and Conejo Recs and Park are shown in purple around the Conejo Valley there. But you can see there's many different public landowners. Those would stay the same, but perhaps some coordination the Park Service could be more of a coordinator of all those public lands if that's what was needed. So in alternative B, again, this is the Park Service would not own any land in the proposed, in the study area, the rim of the valley corridor, but we would have a partnership of landowners, of willing landowners to focus on conservation of wildlife corridors, the Mediterranean habitat, and also to help plan for access for residents and visitors to the area. But again, we wouldn't own any land in this alternative. So there would be no new NPS areas and no boundary adjustment. And alternative C, which is the National Park Service's preferred alternative coming out of the study at this stage. And again, we're open to all the comments that are coming in, and this certainly could be adjusted. In this alternative, it's the purple areas would be added to the boundary of Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, essentially doubling the size of the recreation area. It's another 173,000 acres that would be added to the boundary, but as I mentioned before, the Park Service would be very minor landowner in that, so don't look at that as like a traditional national park where we would be trying to own all that land. That's just impossible in this area, and it's not the goal at all. It's a partnership park. The purple line that you see going across the San Fernando Valley is the Los Angeles River, and because of all the investment going on in that area in terms of public access, we've included it here as well. That's the Sepulveda Basin in the center. Right, let's see if I can get it right there. Sepulveda Basin. These are the Verdugos. This is the Arroyo Seco from Pasadena down to El Pueblo de Los Angeles and downtown where Olvera Street is. That's where it ends. And then coming up the Los Angeles River to Griffith Park, across the Hollywood Hills, and to include the current National Recreation Area, which is this boundary here. Then up through the Simi Hills, connecting across to the Santa Susana Mountains, and across the I-5 corridor back over to the San Gabriel Mountains, just give you a sense. So this is kind of a true rim of the valley, being the San Fernando Valley in this case. The other boundary adjustment alternative is alternative D. This one essentially triples the size of the current National Recreation Area, Santa Monica Mountains, and would include the area around the Conejo Valley. This is the Conejo grade here. So the upland areas above Camarillo, Santa Rosa Valley, up into the Santa Susana Mountains, all the way around Simi Valley, and then again across over to the San Gabriel Mountains, and then it would also include the upper Santa Clara River area. And the same as, so it includes all of what's in Alternative C as well as all these western lands. And those are our alternatives, where the public comment period is open through June 30th, which is next week. After that, we'll be reviewing all the public comments, create a comment analysis, and then we'll revise the study as needed and prepare our final report for Congress at the end of this year. And I guess that's the important thing to know, is that this ends with a report back to Congress, and it's up to Congress to do anything further in terms of any designations. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much for that report. Do we have any questions? All right, no questions. Thank you again. Excellent report. I would ask Ms. Bilda La Pena if you would care to make a motion on this.
Yes, it would be my pleasure to approve staff recommendation of item 4C.
All right. Motion to recommend that staff submits a letter in support of alternative D.
That the recommendation is indeed alternative D, yes.
Yes, very good. Motion on the floor. Vote, please.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. Thank you again for that report. Okay. Some lovely pictures of the Santa Monicas included.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Very good. All right. Mr. Price went to the National League of Cities Summer Policy Forum meeting. Tell us about that, please.
He did.
He did.
Yeah. That meeting was held, I believe it was June 10th through the 12th in Salt Lake City, Utah. A lovely city to visit, very clean. Mayor Ralph Becker welcomed us all. And there we had our policy committee meetings, and I am proud to serve on the National League of Cities Public Safety and Crime Prevention Policy. We focused mainly on the President's task force on 21st century policing that was recently completed. I believe May 4th was the date that report came out. That is as a result of a number of incidents that have occurred throughout the nation involving law enforcement. One of the things that we also discussed, or was presented to us by the NLC staff, was their REAL initiative, and this may be of particular interest to Ms. Booker, and that is the REAL initiative deals with race, equity, and leadership, and it's a way of for the membership, or to equip the membership with the capacity to address some of the historical and systemic and structural barriers caused by racism and inequities. And we'll be hearing more about this REAL initiative throughout the remainder of the year at our other meetings, and how it applies to, for me specifically, the public safety aspect of things. So we did talk at great length about that 21st century policing and things, recommendations that came out of it. And we will be meeting again in, I believe, September, where we will continue that work in hopes of coming up with what we believe should be some good recommendations for national policy from the National League of Cities. So with that.
Thank you, Mr. Price. And I want to thank you for your dedication to representing the City of Thousand Oaks and National League of Cities. It really is important work, and I'm glad you're there for us.
It's an honor.
All right, very good. Mr. City Manager, what follow-up do you have?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I could ask TOTV, they have something to put on the screen.
What?
Maybe not. Okay, there it is. Last week, on Thursday, the City of Thousand Oaks played host to the Ventura Council of Governments annual meeting, and we had a special guest at that. It was at the Stagecoach Inn, and the special guest was Edbert Newberry and his wife. There they are, pictured as we were going in. No, obviously that's your mayor and his wife, Marilyn. They did dress the part as they envisioned a mayor and the First Lady to look like in the 1880s. So the mayor was the gracious host and did a great job. It was very well attended. We had representatives from just about every city, I believe. Most, if not all the cities. The county was there, our county supervisor, our county CEO, and a variety of elected officials and city managers from throughout the county. So, Mr. Mayor, appreciate your indulgence. And we went to all that trouble to dress up. The next city council meeting will be on July 14th, and at this point in time, we're looking at one public hearing that has to deal with another mini mansions project, what's called a TEFRA hearing. It's essentially a refunding or refinancing of some of their revenue bonds, and it has to go through the city. So that's on the agenda for the 14th. One department report at this point in time. Looks like there are 3 small parcels off of Skyline, not too far from City Hall here, that are available for open space acquisition. That's all at this point in time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. And yes, there really was an Egbert Newberry, who Newbury Park was named after, as was the Erbs family and the Borchard family and a lot of founding fathers and families here. And you can see their names all around town. And yes, it was fun dressing up. And I want to thank my wife, Marilyn, for being a good sport. All righty. Closed sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 closed sessions tonight. Both of them are conference with legal counsel for existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9a. First one is West versus City of Thousand Oaks, U.S. District Court case number CV14-4988. And the second one is Montana versus City of Thousand Oaks, case number 56-2011, 00408-151. It's unlikely I'll have anything to report following these closed sessions.
Thank you, Ms. Noonan. All right, we are at the end of our meeting, and we are going to adjourn the meeting in memory of Sergio Seppi. Sergio is the husband of Mary Seppi, and Mary is a stalwart and exceptional city employee who has worked many, many years for us here in our Community Development Department. Sergio was born in Naples, Italy, and due to his love of the English language and American rock and roll, at age 33, he made California his permanent home. And he retired from GTE as a systems analyst in 1993. Sergio was a member of the Kiwanis Club of Thousand Oaks for 14 years, serving as both president and lieutenant governor. Sergio loved living in the Conejo Valley, and he was a resident of Thousand Oaks since 1987. Sergio loved cooking, much to Mary's delight. He loved Italian cars, and he was always rooting for the Ferraris to win the Formula One races. Sergio will be sorely missed by both his family and his friends, and to Mary Seppi, we give you our sincere condolences. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That will conclude our meeting. Our July 7th meeting has been canceled, so we will be reconvening on July 14th. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you on July 14th.